Zam, we're back for another episode as usual, but unlike usual, we have a special guest host, a guest as well, but a guest host to start.
And I guess it's nepotism is key here, and gets you on the show, and it's your brother-in-law.
Yeah, he just had to make a quick phone call to my sister, my wife, his sister, and he's on.
Yeah, that call worked because I made it to an episode finally. So thank you.
Yeah, that's Imran, my brother-in-law, and he's joining us for this episode of Unanchored. All right, we're back for Unanchored. I forgot about the intro music, and I wonder if you heard what we were talking about while the music was playing. But Shahid here, Zam here, and as we said, Imran is here with us too. Imran is my brother-in-law, my co-collaborator. Zam and I have been collaborating for 25 years on things, and Imran and I maybe for the last few years. Is that good?
Yeah, a couple of years. It would have been longer, but the ferry from Nanaimo took a long time to get here. So
yeah. There's his first joke. Imran's a funny guy, and we didn't know each other when I lived in Nanaimo, so he's just telling lies too. But Imran is a funny guy, and one of the reasons why he's on this episode is because our guest today is Sunee Dhaliwal, and Sunee Dhaliwal is a Canadian comedian, very funny dude. And Imran, you still call yourself a comedian?
you know what? With what's going on, I think I still call myself a comedian. Haven't done a show lately, but I just started applying to some coming up. So you know what? I will be able to say 16 soon.
16 stand-up acts.
So they are doing. So shows are starting again.
Yeah, so there's a couple of places that have been opening up, or newer places. Obviously, things are still being, taken cautiously. They are separating, not enough comedians or guests allowed. But you know what? The world still needs to laugh, so the show must go on.
Yeah, and maybe more than ever. And Zam, I distinctly remember back in the day when we started our very first podcast, Nabil and I, and then you ended up coming on. You had to pass a test to be able to come on the show, and that was
My initiation.
a stand-up comedy act, which you did, and it lives infamously now. It became folklore within the SFU hockey team, and
Yeah.
so you consider yourself a comedian too, don't you?
No, not
No.
anymore.
No.
Not ever. Not really ever. I'm a comedy aficionado more than anything.
Right? Yeah, you watch a lot of comedy.
I love stand-up comedy. I worked at the Montreal Just for Laughs Comedy Festival a couple years ago, which was a great experience. I've like been to I go to a million comedy shows, especially in Vancouver when I was living here more frequently, and with comedy still going on. Um, but yeah, I am very excited to get back to seeing live comedy again, and hopefully it can be done in a safe environment. We're still living through these COVID times, and hopefully, what next time I go to a show, there'll be lots of safe, socially distanced shows, and an opportunity to see some laughs again, or hear some laughs again, as it's been so long. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but the newest stand-up special that was released during these COVID times was Dave Chappelle's 846. Imran, did you get a chance to see that?
You know what? I have seen it. I obviously he's a very powerful person when he speaks. He's very popular. He has a lot of respect in the community. He's been around a long time. I think it was very important about what he said on when someone asked him, "Well, how come he's not saying anything?" And he goes, "The streets will speak for themselves." And honestly, that sentence alone should be understood by a lot of people when it's time to talk and when it's time to listen.
Oh, and let's not forget, Dave Chappelle is one of the leaders when it comes to social justice, and in the way that he does his comedy, and the way that he's been calling out intolerance, and calling out hypocrisy for years. Just a legend with his show, the Chappelle Show, in the early 2000s, and even with some of his recent specials. He's the master at calling out hypocrisy. And I'm also very excited that I think it was last night, a new special of my favorite comic was released. Jim Jeffries released this new special called Intolerant, and I saw a clip of it on Facebook, I think a week ago, and it I guess the crux of the whole special is his lactose intolerance and the comedy that comes out of that. So I'm excited to check that out, hopefully tonight.
Yeah, you should relate to that one quite well then, shouldn't you?
Yeah, with the amount of cheese that I eat.
Yeah, that's enough there. We don't need to go into more detail, but we mentioned that Sunee Dhaliwal is our guest and didn't quite elaborate on why that makes sense for Imran beyond him just being a comedian too. And that's because Imran was joining me as the co-host and interviewer for the Sunee Dhaliwal chat, and Zam, you couldn't make that one. So I'm assuming you're looking forward to listening to that chat as well, because you weren't a part of it, and I'm sure you'll find it and him funny, because he is a funny guy.
Yeah, it was a really interesting chat, and I had a chance to listen to it ahead of time. And it was a really fun chat, and I'm gonna call both you and Sunny out. I'm gonna wait till the end of the episode.
Okay, I'm interested to hear that.
And on the painting that was on his back wall.
Oh yeah, well, why don't you just say it now? But
I guess we're here.
Yeah, why don't
we air our grievances now?
If you're watching on YouTube, then look out for the painting, and then listen at the end of the the interview to see what Zam has to say. So let's leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's leave it at that, Zam. So Sunee Dhaliwal is a comedian, and Imran, the first time I saw him was actually randomly in the fall of 2019 when I went to see I guess somebody else at Yuck Yucks in Vancouver, and Sunee was actually, I guess I just went to Yuck Yucks not knowing who I was going to see. A friend of mine invited me out, and Sunee was supposed to headline or co-headline. He explains it in the interview that night, but he ended up sharing the stage with someone and just kind of hosting the show, and it was hilarious. And I hadn't heard of him before, but he really captured my imagination just as someone who was so confident and really owned his craft. Like, he knew what he was doing, and if he was trying, it definitely didn't look like he was. And so I kind of wanted to learn a bit more about him after. So we reached out when we started this podcast, and Imran, having watched your stand-up career start and in the first 5 or 6 of them, thought you'd be a great person to chat with him. But did you know about him beforehand?
Yeah, so actually he's from Abbotsford. So I've seen him perform at Comedy Mix when that was still around. So it was really cool to actually interview him, talk to him. Just as nice as a guy as he was at his shows. Wasn't surprised there, but his whole journey on how, he came up, where he started, how he started to do comedy, all things that I thought about when I started as well. But, he's 6'5", I'm 5'6".
Yeah.
So
not all brown men are made alike, right?
me standing on top of a chair is different than him just standing on stage, right? So
yeah, and we talk about that in the interview too. That not all brown comedians are made alike, and we talk about Russell Peters as well, and he has some really interesting things to say there for sure. Okay, so well, without further ado, let's introduce Sunee Dhaliwal. Sunee Dhaliwal is a funny dude, but don't compare him to Russell Peters because he's been working his entire career to make a name for himself. And that's exactly what he's been able to do, going from the funny guy in high school, the one that everyone liked, to a national headlining act. Sunee has played Canada's biggest festivals, including Just for Laughs in Montreal. He has his own Comedy Now special, which airs on CTV, and he's even worked with comedic powerhouses Tom Segura, Jim Belushi, and Sugar Sammy. None of it has come easy, and if all of it sounds like Sunee has made it, think again. He's traveled the world being funny, and now he hopes to take his talents down south and make his mark in the US and do what many comedians and Canadians strive to do, make the transition to the mainstream and even the big screen. To talk about his journey, putting in the work, and finding his voice, Sunee joins us now on Unanchored. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you making the time. First question I have for you is, how does it feel to have the best nickname out there? Like, you have literally the best nickname, Sunny D. That's your Instagram handle, but it's actually your name. Like, is that actually your name, Sunny, or is that just a shortened East Indian thing?
No, it's Sunny, but also I don't think that's the best nickname.
No, it's not. Why not?
No, it's not a good. First of all, like you said, it's my name, so it's not a nickname. Two, Sunny D is just off. That's a terrible nickname.
Yeah, but it's a great drink.
No, it's a terrible drink too. Like you need to raise the bar, my friend.
All right. Well, I guess I'm feeling a bit nostalgic, like being cooped up at home during this COVID thing. It reminds me of the good old days where I didn't leave the house. All I did was spend time with my family, and I drank Sunny D. So maybe I'm just a bit nostalgic right now. But
maybe. But like, yeah, that's a terrible drink. Donkey Hammer is the best nickname.
Okay, and that's your nickname or not?
No, I'm just saying if someone were to come up with a nickname, that would be the one. And yes, Sunny D, I think, is the only juice where you can leave it unrefrigerated and nothing will happen to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So just so you know what you were drinking back in the day.
It actually gets better when you leave it unrefrigerated.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's some problems.
So what do you
keep reach for the purple stuff, right? Is that what they used
Always.
to say? Always the
purple stuff. We got some cola, purple stuff, Sunny D.
All right. Well, Sunny, what are you up to these days? Obviously, it's a weird time for us all. We're all cooped up at home.
Nothing.
Okay, that's
started
good. Just like us.
Started a puzzle. I not even close to done the border yet. So, just staying in.
I learned that when you start puzzles, you have to start with the border. I learned that during this whole pandemic. That's the first time I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to go. And I have not. I think we're not even done the border yet. We're not puzzle people out here.
Yeah, me neither. My wife is, but I'm not helping with that. So, before COVID, before the lockdown, what were you up to? How was life going? How was business going? Were you keeping busy? And is it kind of tough to be sitting around?
Yeah, things were great. Touring all over the place. And I always try to choose one place on the planet that I haven't gone. So in the fall, I was looking forward to going to Bermuda to do a show. I had a show at the Vancouver Playhouse. I was opening for Akash Singh in May. It was looking promising. I was looking forward to doing many shows. And yeah, this whole thing hit. And obviously there are more important things than my comedy. But just me specifically, that kind of sucked. But other than that, we're all safe and healthy, and my family's healthy. So I got not much to complain about, but it is boring.
Yeah, that's right.
So
there's only so much Netflix you can watch.
Yeah, no, I finished Netflix. I'm done Netflix. I finished that real quick. People keep telling me about the Tiger King documentary. I finished that in a day. And there's no basketball. There's no sports. So if this was lockdown and I could watch live sports, this would be nothing. But now that there's no sporting events, it's kind of difficult.
So we're sitting here with my brother-in-law Imran, obviously all remotely here, but he started doing stand-up comedy 6 months ago, Imran? Your first stand-up set was 6 months ago. You were working a job that took you across the country, so as you went across the country, you dropped in on all these open mic nights and you really got going. And I've been telling him, hey man, stay fresh, jump on Instagram and tell us some jokes. Can you do that? That's not what you do though, right? You need a crowd.
Well, you know what? Some people are being innovative and doing that and telling their jokes, I guess via Zoom or whatever it is. But yeah, I need a crowd, just to know if a joke works or not, interaction. And I was actually joking with my friends and stuff, saying that my first show is going to be rough because you're just sitting here, I'm used to doing at least a show, up to 3 a night. And now I'm just sitting at home. The funny things keep happening, but it's really rusty. I don't have that instant feedback of, will this work? So I feel I'll get out of prison with all these ideas and see if they stick.
I definitely can understand how that feels. As stupid as it sounds, are we checking in on the extroverts, right? Are we making sure that they're sane? Are we making sure that they're okay during these times? We need that feedback, that social substance. But to be a comedian like yourself, or have a craft and not be able to get the room and the vibe that you need, you can't just go on Zoom or TikTok or IG and start spewing out jokes, because you're not going to get that same feeling, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's going to be quite difficult to get back into it. Obviously, it's a downtime right now. Do you find yourself writing more jokes, writing new sets, or are you still in the point of, let me just take this time for myself?
Yeah, right now, definitely taking the time for myself, but there will be a point where I'll need to get something out. And if it's not writing new jokes, it's just, I guess, refining the stuff that I had. Because I still have a bunch of my sets recorded that I need to go back through and look over and tighten up. So that will be actually very productive for me to do. But yeah, the new stuff that, I'm thinking about that I won't have a chance to try out until I'm thinking fall or past that, it's yeah, that's gonna struggle.
So you're out on the West Coast right now, and you're a West Coast guy originally, right?
Yes, born and raised out here.
Born and raised. Were you born in Abbotsford?
Vancouver.
Okay, you were born in Vancouver, but you lived in Abbotsford for some time. So tell us what life was like growing up here on the West Coast. Obviously, East Indian guy, and you spent some time in Abbotsford, which is a relatively white town. I would say. I mean, I've only driven through Abbotsford, so I don't really know. But I'm from Nanaimo. I was one of the only brown kids in my high school, so I wonder what your life was like growing up, if it was anything like ours.
Abbotsford is 50-50.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
the farmers,
it's,
right?
Half white, half brown. Yeah, so it was actually a culture shock. Because I went to an all-white school, basically, and then came out here, and I'm like, oh, man, this is great. So, yeah, no, I had a normal upbringing. Yours is probably a little bit different, living mid-island, I guess.
Yeah,
But for me, it was fine. For me, it was great, normal things, sports. Yeah, comedy was never a thing until after university. Or no, sorry, during university, and everybody just told me to try it and did that. But yeah, my upbringing was absolutely normal, except for the fact that as I grew older, my home life was very traditional. And when I would be out, I would be kind of like a different person.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering because when I was a kid and everyone around me was white, I introduced myself as Al to some of my neighbors at one point because I wanted to fit in so badly. And so when I came over here, a lot of people like me who are around here, so it felt quite different. So I guess you got that in Abbotsford, got that upbringing where there was a lot of people around you who are like you.
That's hilarious. So the fact that you changed your name.
Yeah.
So my name is Sunee, spelled Sunee, and my last name is Dhaliwal. When I went to this all-white school, there was like a new kid, and they got him to dismiss the class by doing attendance. So for recess, and obviously he got to my name, and he couldn't say it. Obviously, I don't know why the teacher thought this was a good idea.
Yeah.
So he messed it up, and then I felt so embarrassed that I decided to change my name, just in school. And I changed it to like a more prominent Canadian name. I changed it to Raja. You know what I mean? Not Al, not Steve, not Mark, Raja, because I watched Aladdin and that was the tiger from Aladdin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. Like that's how my home life was, as opposed to me leaving.
Subconsciously, I obviously changed my name to try and fit in. This was only once because I got in shit from my mom after she found out. But consciously, I chose Al because of Al Bundy and that show that I watched.
4 touchdowns.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So
I don't even know how you were allowed to watch that. I wasn't even allowed to watch that show.
Yeah, I know. That was out of character for my mom for sure. So
yeah. I would. If there was any kissing on TV, my parents would be like, "This is a dirty show," and I'd be like, "It's Full House."
It's dirty as it comes.
That's what I started to realize about living at home right now and watching Netflix. Nothing on Netflix is suitable for sitting at home and watching with your parents.
No.
Nothing. Like absolutely, there's no show on TV where I'm like, "Oh, I could just watch this and it's fine." And it's like, nope, there's a sex scene, it's a murder scene. There's a sex scene.
Or some giant
There's-
spider eating some kids. Like what
You
is
know.
on Netflix these days?
Which is fucked, because if you look at the stuff our parents used to watch, like the Bollywood movies and stuff, they were way more explicit. They just never showed anything.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I literally, if I sit down and watch something that they're watching, I'll look and I'll be like, wait, was that a rape? I think there was it just cut, but like I'm pretty sure that woman got assaulted.
Yeah, man. The Bollywood movie industry, they actually try things first, right? They just don't show it. So they you know, they start with, you know, that kind of stuff, and then we follow in the West, in Hollywood. So you're talking about comedy, you know, not really being a thing for you until during university, but you must have known you were funny. When did you know that you were funny and people laughed, or did it come quite early?
Yeah, I mean, it came in like high school. That was just like a way of like trying to fit in. Like, again, you know, going from a different school and having like a culture shock. And then, of course, that was elementary school, and then you go to junior high and then high school. So basically, you're going to different schools, even though it's not like you're moving. And it was just a way to get, I guess, new friends or into a circle. I mean, same with sports and stuff. So it was always easy to get new friends when you could make them laugh.
So you mentioned university being the time where you kind of start to think about maybe trying some of this comedy stuff. So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it wasn't even me thinking about it. It was, I was working at Staples, not to brag, and my manager emailed. It was Yuck Yucks at the time. It changed to the Comedy Mix later, but she emailed that comedy club as me. She goes, "Hi, I'm Sunee Dhaliwal. I would like to do stand up." And then I come into work, and she goes, "April 24th, you're going on stage, and we're all coming."
Yeah.
And so I was basically like pushed on stage.
That would be an HR issue these days if she did that today.
Yeah, this is going against my best interest.
How do you feel that influence was on you? Meaning, if they didn't push you, your manager didn't push you, do you think it still would have taken you time before you actually did go back up on stage, or would that not have happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I would have gone on stage at all. I was content and happy with where my life was going. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. It's what I'm going to school for. And, you know, I make the people around me laugh. I'm good. Like, this is fine. And she actually was, she came to a show of mine. I was doing a show in Whistler, and she was there. And I said on stage, I said that story. I'm like, now I've been doing comedy. At the time, it was 10 years. And I just wanted to tell her that, you know, this is all your fault. I could have been a lawyer. I'm fucking broke. So yeah, I don't know if I would have. I mean, it's hard to say. I was fine. It was completely different than when I got on stage, where I was like, oh, this is like literally what I want to do. But before that, it was, you know, I never knew what it was like, so I had nothing to compare it to.
So talking about your upbringing then, and you were going to be a lawyer, is that because you come from that traditional East Indian upbringing where you're going to be a lawyer, an accountant, or a doctor? That's just what you do, or did you have a real interest in that?
Yeah, no, I really like law. Law was law. I still like law. It's very fascinating. So that's why I wanted to do it. Yeah, other than that, like my parents would have been completely okay with whatever I chose, which
awesome,
as they're okay now.
Yeah, awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at all comedy has got me, you know, like Blue Note, paintings.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, no, that's
so it was definitely my choice. Wanted to do law, and that is until I went on stage for the first time.
I think it's really about the work ethic, not really about what you choose to do. Because you can say you want to do this and do that, but if you never do any of it, it's not like you could show your parents, your friends, you know, anyone else in your life that you're serious about it. And just like myself, you know, I was just a class clown. That was it. Just going to school. That's all I did. And then one day I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna go on stage and do it. You know, and I did my 1 a.m. set at Yuck Yucks open mic Wednesday night or Thursday or whatever it was. There was 10 people there, 6 people there. You know, my brother-in-law was there, and it was like, I can't believe I just did that. what took me so long to actually give myself the push. And then I went the next week, and now I'm at 15 sets. And like Shahid was saying, I ended up getting a job that took me across Canada for the last 6 months. And I took every opportunity I could to just reach out to local comedy clubs, and I did jokes at John's. I did Comedy Nest. I did Liberty Laughs with Himanshu out in Toronto. So it's just that initial push to do something. And now you said, this is what you want to do. But did you ever come to a time where you did it for so long and then you're like, this is not it?
Oh yeah, no, I have those moments constantly, where it's, and I think everybody should, where it's like, yo, I need something more, and it turns out to be growth. It's never, oh, I'm in the wrong thing. I'm just not working hard enough or growing hard enough. I never had the 1 a.m. sets at Yuck Yucks. That's completely new.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's harder now to get started. When I started, it was a Tuesday night, just for amateurs. It was called Crash and Burn Night, and it was 5 to 6 amateurs, and then it was 4 to 6 professionals doing new material. That's what it's billed for. And so it was like a normal show. It was sold out. And now I think it's kind of like really fortunate that I did decide, like, hey, I'll go and do this, and then stuck with it. But yeah, there are times where you're just doing the same things, you're going to the same places, same hotels, and you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because the road is tough. Like, the road is probably the worst thing about being a comedian. You're Mike McDonald, great comedian who just passed away. He has a thing where he says, you don't pay me for the show. You pay me for the time I take away from my family, the eating, shitting food, the not sleeping in my bed. That's what you're paying me for. The comedy I do for free. So definitely there's been times where I'm just like, maybe I should do something else. And it just turns out that I just need to work harder. And that's all it is.
So that was my, sorry,
I was gonna say, a thing will come. Like I said, now I choose a different place on the planet to perform, and something will happen where, like, you'll get a CBC debaters, or you'll get like a gala just for laughs, and that will keep you going.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is, like, how did you overcome that? But for you, it's just picking a different spot. With your material, do you find that you update it, or do you have a strict set for that night, and then you see where it goes? Because for myself, I did 2 shows at Comedy Nest in Montreal. The Tuesday night was probably the worst night I've ever had. Like, I just honestly wanted to stop. And
Right.
I booked 2 nights just because I was in the city for a week. And that night I was like, I'm done. I'm not coming back. Forget it. And I wrote something on my Instagram in some kind of details like that. And Comedy Nest messaged me on the page. And they're like, listen, it's not you. Come tomorrow, do your set again. You know what I mean? All you can do is try. And the next night, I had the best performance I've ever had.
Same material?
Same material.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so I guess to overcome that, and then to do the material, I always say, like, when I teach like a workshop, is I switch it up. I have to, or I'll go insane. And I do a lot of crowd work, and it's only because I'm genuinely interested in whomever I'm talking to.
Sure.
And then that will kind of dictate where I go from there. But I always say, like, say you're doing the same 5 minutes or whatever, and you've been doing it for months and months and months. There's a tendency to mail it in because you're not excited about the material anymore. It works, but you don't deliver it the way you delivered it. I always say you need to deliver it like you just wrote it, because it's not the people who are coming to the show's fault that you're lazy and you didn't write a new 5 minutes in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to deliver it just like you wrote it the day, like a week ago. If you hate your material, write more. Write different material, but it's not their fault. So I will always, even though if I hate something, I'll still deliver it like it's brand new, and then I'll be like, okay, I gotta come up with something else, and then I'll focus on that something else for a while. So like I have this subconsciously, I have this thing. I don't focus on it or anything like that, but so I'll have like a 45-minute set, an hour, and then it'll be like, this is the same, and this is the stuff I'm working on, and this is the stuff I did work on that now works and now is in here, and then the old stuff is gone.
For sure. So it's like the sandwich effect, right? You strong, try out new things, strong at the end. I found that on the second night, I did accentuate it more. Like I was hitting those jokes. I was pausing. Like I was trying a lot harder than I did. Than I did the night earlier.
Well, also, like you said, you said the Tuesday was the worst, and then Wednesday was the best. And I'm sure the crowd was way into it on Wednesday. And it's like the old thing is, we tell the crowd, the more energy you give us, the more energy we're going to give back. So if you tell a joke and they don't laugh, it's hard for someone to put in energy and put themselves out there. Like we're already vulnerable on stage, but could you imagine doing a whole act out and no one laughs and you're just like, oh, well, I feel like an idiot.
Well, I got to commend Imran. I sat through his first 6 open mics at Yuck Yucks.
Great way to put it.
Yeah, and he wrote something new every week, which was impressive because we were there seeing the same people every week, and they were trying the same stuff every week, and everyone has their own process, but for a guy like Imran who's doing it for the first time and going there every week, but writing a new set every week, I thought that was really impressive. Really being vulnerable, putting himself out there, and working at his craft. So that was impressive to see. And talking about your crowd work, I first saw you late last year at Yuck Yucks. I think you were supposed to be the headliner. Potentially, I'm not sure, but then somebody decided to record a live album that night.
I remember that.
Yeah, during Pride Week, right? And so you were just hosting, and you introduced I can't remember his name while he was recording his live album.
We did a co-feature.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a comedian that wanted to record their live album, and Yucks had me to headline, and they didn't want him to headline.
Right.
Because you have to go through this process, and then you become a headliner, and all these things. And he's very funny, as you know from the night.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, and so I know that he's great. So I have no problem like him headlining, but the way my touring schedule is set up, I'm booked like 4 months in advance. So if I change this weekend, everything kind of falls apart. So I reached out to Yucks and I said, hey, is it okay if we co-feature? Meaning where there's like 2 headliners for the price of 1. And they said, no problem. And then so what I did was, hey, I'll go first both nights. I'll do less time. And this way it'll be like you're headlining. And I made sure that the club presented it as such. And he's like a very nice guy, and he was very thankful of it. And I just told him like, hey, I'm getting paid the same amount of money for doing less work, less pressure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, it was awesome. Cause it was, I don't know if I've the opening spot is called the middle, and that's technically what I was. And I was just doing like a longer middle spot. And I hadn't done that in so long that I could just, it was like every night, like, okay, what, 30 minutes do I choose to do today? It was very fun for me.
Yeah, and that was the first time I saw you, and the one thing that I really noticed, and it probably had a lot to do with that situation, but I know for sure it also has a lot to do with the comedian you are, since I've watched your stuff since online, and that's how much you leaned into the crowd and that crowd work. And that's my favorite type of comedy, is when comedians put themselves out there by just taking in feedback right away and then going from there and letting this kind of set sort of go where it goes. And obviously you're prepared and you know what you want to talk about, but I love that type of comedy, and I wonder sort of why you like that type of comedy. You kind of touched on you're interested in people. Is that as far as it goes, or is that something that you like, you get adrenaline from, you thrive from doing that type of comedy where it's really unpredictable?
Yeah, it is because I do genuinely, when I'm asking a question, I do genuinely want to know about these people. Also, no matter how well I'm doing, for some reason, there's a voice inside my head after like the 20-minute mark where it just goes, all right, enough. Like, no one cares.
Yeah.
So I know my jokes are good and I know they're funny because they've been tested, but I rather know what, this person in the red sweater, what they do. And if the crowd work doesn't work, I can always go back to jokes that work. Um, and but like, here's the thing. I've been doing comedy for 12 years, 300 shows a year. There isn't many situations that I haven't been through. So the whole unpredictable thing kind of goes out the window. And I'm actually overly prepared. Most of the crowd work that you see, I've said before. There are like new spontaneous things that happen every night. However, other stuff doesn't. And then when that new stuff happens, I just file it in my head. And then now that's a thing that I've said before. So it's like the allure of, is this guy making it up on the spot? Is this prepared? Like it's like a freestyle rap battling. Most of this, especially now, all the stuff is written, but then they also do freestyle in the beginning and the middle of their rounds. And then it's like, man, this guy just made this up. And it's like, well, did he not? So
Yeah,
it's
you're
kind of like
saying
that. That's my
knees
influence.
weak, palms are sweaty. That was prepared. That wasn't on the fly, right? That wasn't freestyle. Mom spaghetti. Imran, you have anything?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, obviously having a crowd that's there for you, listening to you, they're going out, they're enjoying it with their friends, they're having drinks or dinner before. Do you find that there's a difference going to an amateur night compared to a pro-am night, compared to a headliner night? Like, is the laughs better because I'm paying more money to go see someone? Or is it, I'm going to laugh regardless?
Amateur night is easier. There's not that much pressure. Every night the crowd is there to laugh, right? They paid to laugh. They're at a comedy club, and comedy is the first word. There always is going to be some exceptions. A person gets too drunk. This is just the first place they're going, and then the real night starts for them. That is, but like amateur night, some of these people are doing it for the first time. They brought their friends. People are rooting for you. No one wants to be like, hey man, last night I saw a person give up on their dreams. No one wants to say that besides me. I love that. I love when I see an amateur comic goes on stage and a joke doesn't work, and in their head they're going, I'm going back to school. That's my favorite.
That's the lawyer in you talking.
Yeah. I just love it. But like on the weekend, they're paying more money and they expect more. If this is a professional show, they want that more. They want the bang for their buck. So it's $25 as opposed to $5. Yeah, so it doesn't make a much difference when you're just sitting in the back of the room looking at a show. It all seems the same. But if a amateur comic were to jump in on the weekends, it wouldn't be what they're used to. And that's why you go through these stages as like, you're doing the Wednesday night late spots, like Imran was saying. And then you get on Wednesday, the show, like the 8:00 show. And then you get on Thursdays, and then you start doing guest spots on the weekend. And then you get on the weekend. So it looks from someone outside looking in like it's the same, like, oh no, people are laughing here, people are laughing there. But it gets steadily difficult, but then you get better. So it's the same.
Well, you talked about pressure making a professional and differentiating between those spots, but you did just mention a couple minutes ago that you've been doing 300 shows a year. That really jumped out to me. Is that what makes a professional too? Is just the amount of work that you have to put in?
Yeah, definitely. And I know it's gone way drastically lower now because I don't need the stage time as I did, in the first 5 years. But yeah, it's just they say like you got to put your 10,000 hours in, and that's all it is. It's just repetition, doing sets. Like I said, there isn't a scenario where I haven't been through. This joke works in Vancouver. Why doesn't it work in Ontario? So just things like that. Just more stage time, more sets, more experiences, and that kind of forms who you are, and you get your voice. Because just because someone laughs doesn't mean it's a good joke, and doesn't mean it's a joke that you want to be telling. And then you finally get through these things where like, oh, this is a very, I guess they call it low hanging fruit, like where anybody could come up with it. And then you start like taking layers off and exposing yourself more, and that's you become yourself on stage.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your influences. Imran, you can jump in here in a sec. I've read and heard you talk about Chris Rock being a big influence for you as a kid, and finding your voice, means, like you said, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what you want to talk about. But why was Chris Rock influential for you? And sort of how did that help you find your own voice?
Well, Chris Rock was is the reason why I do stand-up comedy. Because the first comic I saw, first comic I saw that I could relate to. He was one of the first comics. My cousin, a lot of my interests stem from my one cousin. Not that I have one. I'm Indian. I have many, but him specifically. I really looked up to him, and he was a lot older than I was, but he was in that like cool. Like he was in high school and I was in elementary school, basically. Like he was just so much cooler. So he was watching Chris Rock, Bring the Pain. And as a kid in elementary school, I should not have been exposed to this. But at the same time, we also listen to Eazy-E. So same thing. And so I saw Chris Rock, on stage, and my cousin's laughing. I have no idea what this guy is talking about. I go repeat the joke at school. It was about a get dick free card. If your girlfriend catches you, and you're cheating on her, and she catches you, she wants to break up. Consider yourself lucky, because if you stay with her, you basically gave her a get dick free card, right? Where she can cash it in at any time because you cheated. So now she has, I do this joke in school. My friends laugh. Teacher hears it. I get suspended. But I remember them laughing, and I was like, oh, that was dope. So I get into comedy, start watching comedy, and I can't relate to any of the comedians besides Chris Rock, because the comedians like Jerry Seinfeld or whoever was on CBC at the time or CTV, it was observational humor. And as a kid, I didn't really observe, I didn't observe the way they observed. So like when Chris Rock would talk about being, fish out of water, only Black kid in a white school, him being poor, like these are things I can relate to. And also he swore. So as a kid, I just thought swearing was fun.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that must mean you must love the Eddie Murphy albums, because that guy swears.
Yeah. The first time I saw Delirious, I was a lot older, but it's fantastic. And Dave Chappelle is one of my influences. And these guys it was just growing up, and I could hear my comedy be like theirs, which was very hard for me to stop.
So then how would you describe yourself as a comedian then, if you could? Like, do you have a niche? Do you need to have a niche in terms of like who you are, what you're talking about? Can you describe yourself as a comedian?
Describe myself as a comedian. I don't like to generalize a lot, but people ask me that all the time.
Yeah.
They go like, "Oh, what's your comedy like?" And it's very hard to put in, because it's not, because the types of comedy you're used to is like, political or one-liners or raunchy or whatever. But I guess like because you've seen my show, so I guess it's true stories mixed with improv is the best way I could.
Yeah.
Because it's not really storytelling, but it is. But it's not like long stories with there's a comedian named Damon Schroeder. I would classify him as a storyteller because he's super good at it. He has these like long stories that you're just like on the edge of your seat, just like listening to every line. It's amazing. And then at the end, it's just like this crescendo where just this big ovation, and he's like one of the best I've ever seen at it. So I wouldn't classify myself as that, just because I don't see myself on that level.
I think in terms of influence, like I saw you at Comedy Mix back in the day when it was still around, and Gavin Matz, and I actually just went to Andrea Jin's live taping in December, which is really cool. And we always take influences from our own lives because that's the way we know how to tell a joke. That's the way we know how to share a story. But where I started finding myself is the more I told jokes about coming from an East Indian family, being brown, the less I liked it. Because I started thinking comedy doesn't mean my life story. Comedy means what's funny. What do I find funny, and then how do I share that? So how do you break up from being just a brown guy to start telling jokes that more and more people will understand, but still keeping who you are, you know?
Right. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of different, right? So like the thing is, the thing that makes you is your experiences, right? We grew up completely different, even though we're the same race. You know, that has nothing to do with it. I never wanted to beat home the fact that I was East Indian, because I'm sure you could tell when I get on stage, right? Like I don't have to remind the crowd. So for me, it was just what I'm interested in and what I find funny, like you're saying. That's what I want to talk about. So I talk about it. And then it got to a point where, like, I was talking about rap music, but then I was on a show with someone that also was doing a joke about rap music. So I was like, how can I stand out more? And of course, it's completely different jokes. But then you're gonna get to I was at a stage where I was doing well, and I didn't need to change. And then I did a huge festival, the Just for Laughs festival, and there was a person who had been doing it for 20 years, who was just as likable as I was on stage. And he talked about how he couldn't fight, which I had a joke about, you know, getting into physical altercation at a club and I can't fight. He did a Michael Jackson joke, which I had a Michael Jackson joke at the time. So basically he was doing jokes that I talked about before me. He's 20 years in, so his jokes are better, and he's likable on stage as I was. So I was like, this is not a good situation to be in, because I don't have anything else in my bag, especially at the time. So that's when I started diving deep inside myself to talk about my experiences, that I also didn't feel like it was fake. Like it wasn't things that, I don't want to talk about this. It was still things I wanted to talk about, but no one else can talk about it because they don't share these experiences with me. So that was a way to still talk about what I want to talk about, but also be true to who I am, and also not be the same as everybody else thinks I am.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point of, you know, breaking the cycle of what people expect from you to do what you want to do, and then again refining it, right? Because it's an art, it's a craft like anything else out there. You have to keep moving and adjusting and adapting to the situation. Do you ever feel pressured to go back to old material because you need to make people laugh? Do you ever feel pressured into saying, okay, well, this is the type of crowd, they want to hear this stuff, this is what they're here for?
No, not anymore. I mean, I might have in the beginning to be like, to, you know, because again, I just, at the time I needed the validation, and I needed, when you're starting out, you're doing, like you said, you did like 15 sets. That's not a big number.
Not at all.
So not at all, right? And so, and especially doing sets in different places. So every single time you go on stage, it's like an audition again. And you don't want, and first impressions in comedy are awful, because as soon as you see somebody, you people for some reason dictate if they're good or not. Like there's a stereotype that women aren't funny because there's fewer women in comedy, and a person saw a woman and they just didn't like her comedy. So then now every woman has to deal with that when a woman gets on stage, and you're just like, no, women aren't funny. It's like, no, the women you've seen aren't funny. You've seen plenty of men that suck, but for some reason you don't classify men as being unfunny. So when you go on stage, you specifically, I know there's like a lot of pressure where it's like, I got to be funny because there's people seeing me for the first time, and you don't want their first impressions to be like, oh no, I've seen him, he's not good. Which again, if you look at Tuesday and then you look at Wednesday at the Nest, that's insane, right? Like if a person came Tuesday, they would write you off, but if they came Wednesday, they would be like, this guy's the best comic in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So early on, I might have had that, but now I don't have that as much. I will do the jokes I want to talk about because I'm confident in them. They're funny enough, and if it's a old white people, and it's the old white people that don't like rap music, I will make sure I explain it enough that the joke still works.
So you talked about maybe not necessarily wanting to bring attention to your East Indianness. It's obvious, right? And
yeah.
a lot of people will have been introduced to an East Indian comic through Russell Peters, especially a Canadian one, and through what he did in his first special. And he certainly made an impact on the comedy world and put brown Canadian comedians on the map, so to speak. How did that influence your journey, if it did at all? Like maybe not what you're talking about, but the fact that you are where you are. Do you see direct correlations whatsoever?
I mean, yeah, it was the thing that so specifically Russell Peters is I would get compared to him on nothing else but the fact that we're both Indian. Our jokes, our style is nothing like each other. But even I'm like, even place like people that hire me for their Christmas parties, like lawyers. This is a specific one. It was lawyers, and this is one of the first times where I was like, I don't think I want to do comedy anymore. First, we haggled about the rate, right, which sucks to do. And then I go into this banquet hall, so I've cut my money down. And turns out they have millions and millions of dollars. So I'm like, well, this is dumb. And then my intro was like, all right, now we got a comedian. This guy thinks he's Russell Peters. It was literally my thing. And then he handed me the mic. So now I'm just mad. And so I decided to just hit it on the head. And I did a joke that involves Russell Peters. And it's the style of Russell just because for the first time and the only time I do an East Indian accent, and then the punchline is, so the joke is my father saw Russell Peters for the first time, so he thinks I, being a comedian, can get famous and rich like him, because if I get money, then he gets money, right? So he saw Russell, and he's like, oh, Russell talks about his dad a lot on stage, so he started to mess up on purpose, so I had material, and so I do an East Indian accent because he's being very stereotypically Indian. I'm like, Dad, can we get a bigger TV? He said, you want a bigger TV? Sit closer. And then I go, Dad, you don't have an accent. Why the fuck are you talking like this? So like totally what you think that it's going to be like, because people think the joke is done after I do the accent.
Right.
And then I hit him on my dad, you don't have an accent. Why are you talking like this? And then it's like, oh, this guy's not like him. Like I had to do that early on just so they would see a difference.
It's a good joke. I saw that one on YouTube. Solid. Good work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was what I had to put up with. So it is dope because he's basically, like you said, like putting Indian comics on the map, but it also really does hinder us because Russell Peters, and then that's it. And no one wants to be the other guy. It's like, hey, that Indian comedian, Russell Peters? No, the other guy. No one wants to be them. So you kind of got to, create your own lane.
Yeah. And I mean, something else you have in common with Russell Peters is the fact that you're Canadian, and comedy has been a part of Canadian culture for as long as culture has existed, from SCTV to Canadians on SNL, Russell Peters, and kind of more modern, actors and comedians, Ryan Reynolds, Seth Rogen. There's so many people out there that have put Canada on the map comedically. I wonder how important it is to you to represent Canada, and how much easier it is today to do that, to kind of stick around, to stay in Canada, to be proudly Canadian.
Yeah, not at all. I'm trying to fucking leave as soon as I get that green card, bro. It honestly, it still sucks. It still sucks that hopefully now with like the fact that like, streaming services and stuff, we don't have to, but no, it's still, you get big enough and you go down south. It's crazy. It's crazy that our own networks will show American shows and comedians and comedy on the Comedy Network. I remember there was Live at Gotham, which is a comedy club in New York, but it was on our Comedy Network. And a comedian, Graham Clark, one of the, I'm biased, but I think he's the best comedian in Canada. He was furious, and I didn't understand, because I was still a young comic, why he was so upset. And now I totally get it. Why is a Canadian network showing American comedians in an American comedy club? Even our festivals, our comedy festivals, to showcase Canadian comedy, we bring in big names from the States to sell it. I get it. Like, you need to sell tickets. So the names that people are used to are the names from the States. So you have to do what you have to do. But it's still the same thing. As you get good enough, you go down south.
Yeah, no, I hear you. What does it mean to be associated with Drake's brand, OVO? And like, literally, I don't even know what it means. What does that mean?
OVO.
Yeah.
It's October's very own. It's
That's right. That's right.
He's born in October.
I certainly am. I don't speak that language, so.
It's English.
Yeah.
OVO. My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I think, sorry.
Yeah.
Just to go back to the Netflix emulating, your previous comedian idols, figuring out your own path. But do you find that streaming services are bringing more people back into live comedy? Do you find that the clubs that, they haven't been as popular in the last 5 years, 6 years, but now I'm seeing more and more smaller nights at pubs and things like that. Do you find that more comedians are going to Netflix because you could get the larger audience really quick, and it's making people go out again and like comedians again?
No, I mean, it's comedy always has its wave. When I was starting up, there was way more rooms than there are now, and then it took a dip, and then it starts back up again. It's just a normal occurrence. I think if anything, it just makes people stay home. There's nothing like seeing live comedy, but I mean, and I just mean in general. I just mean completely in general, not just for comedy. Movies now aren't even hitting the theaters; they're going straight to Netflix. So I think it's just stopping people, but you do get, it's a little of both, because you do get exposed to more comedians and their work. And if you like someone and then you see that they're at a comedy club or at a theater that's near you, you might be more likely to go and see this person because you're familiar with their work. So it's a little of both.
Okay, so I get to rephrase my question now and actually speak
OVO.
English this time. OVO. So yeah, I mean, what does it mean? How did that come about to be associated with the October's very own brand, and like, how does that influence sort of what you do? Talk us through sort of what that means for you.
Yeah, it's not, man. I've been a big rap fan forever, and just like anything, it's just, you're just trying to get to the next step. There's a lot of people that send me clothes to this day. My friend out in LA, he has a brand, DOS, Despite Our Sins. Little light shout out. And it's basically just like collabing with different things. And I would like it to get to a point where it's a bigger collaboration, where it's, on the scale of, let's say, a Drake or a Jay-Z, when they collaborate, like, like Jay-Z collaborated with Samsung. So as soon as you buy a Samsung phone, you have his album. You know, Drake collaborated with Apple Music, and that's why Spotify and Apple, anytime he has a new album out, it's the first one on the thing. So it's just basically signifying your growth is people reaching out to you, and especially, you know, going back to the streaming service and stuff. Social media is insane. People won't even look at and do their research if they like a person or not. They'll just, okay, how many followers does this person have? Are they influential? Let's team up with this person. There's been many posts that I have that are paid posts, and luckily I haven't had to do one that I didn't want to do. It was just, hey, use these hashtags, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, as long as I get to post whatever I want to post. But yeah, I don't know if that's the way it's going for me, but it's just nice to team up with people that you like and enjoy.
Well, listen, we won't keep you here much longer. It's almost an hour that we've had you here. So, you know, just a couple more questions for you. But what I guess Imran wants to know this too. But you've done the biggest festivals in Canada. You've had your stuff air on, you know, TV here in Canada. What do you want to do next? Like you're talking about, you know, that the ads and the sponsored content, it's nice, and you haven't had to do anything that you don't want to do. What is it that you want to do next? Is acting in your future? Because, you know, I could see you being, you know, an actor, but you know, a great host too, because of the way you do, you know, work with the audience. What's the goal for you, or do you even have one?
Yeah, acting actually is higher on my list than comedy is. Done a bunch of things. I was, you know, like TV shows, commercials, movies and stuff. And I like that. I like that for this, for the specific reason of me being in one place at one time. When you're on a TV show or you get a commercial, you get paid way more, you get treated better than when you do comedy. So the goal is just to have your comedy, my goal is just to have my comedy reach more and more people so that I don't have to do as many shows, just because, not for the fact that I like, you know, for being lazy or anything like that. It's just, it's a hard life to live when, you know, I'm on the road for 8 months out of the year. It's living out of a suitcase, and it's just traveling over and over again just to hit, you know, a fraction of the people I could hit if, you know, I was on a certain platform. And then now you're just doing shows because you want to, and people are coming out specifically to see you, not the fact that they just want to go see comedy and you happen to be there. Acting is super great. And I think, so that is, like, you nailed it on the head. That is the next step, is to either be a host or get something that allows me to stay in one place at one time and then do shows just because I want to.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So maybe some parting words for Imran and the rest of our aspiring comedians and actors and creatives out there. You know, how do they get to where you get? I mean, hard work is one thing, and we can tell that you've put in the hard work. You know, big breaks are another thing. But what's some parting advice you can give our Imran and our listeners?
Well, I mean, if there's anybody listening that wants to do comedy, first step is just do it. Don't wait, because comedy is like a linear thing. There's plenty of people that take time off, but you need to put those hours in. So when you're doing comedy, and this is, I guess, to Imran too, and you feel like stopping, there's nothing wrong with, like, you know, taking a breath, taking a moment, but you still should do something comedy related, I feel, because if you take, let's say, like 2-3 months off, when you get back to doing comedy again, you're just where you stopped. So if someone has been doing comedy the same amount of time as you, you've been doing it a year, you stop for 3 months, they keep going. Well, now they're, you know, 15 months and you're still back at 12. You just pick up where you go. So it's just to start and keep doing it. Yeah, other than that, for Imran, it's you have a completely different but a great opportunity, because you are touring so early, and it's not really a tour, but I guess traveling and doing different places. So there's always a shock when a person leaves where they've been doing most of their comedy. And it could be in the same province, and they realize, hey, this joke doesn't work here as it does in Vancouver. And it's just norms and maybe like references or whatever it is. So you are going to face a lot of things where it's like a joke works here, but it doesn't work here. My advice for you is don't be discouraged with that. You just need to find jokes that work everywhere, every single time. And you're going to find those jokes before someone else does, just because of your job allows you to travel so much.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here as well. We obviously wanted to connect, and I'm glad this happened.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it. But like you said, it's searching for the avenues that bring you that peace, that energy, that existence. And we've been doing this. We started off in podcasts. We stopped. Shide started this again. I get to be a part of it. I started doing stand-up. We actually were editing a screenplay right now that we wrote. Shide also wrote a short film that I helped produce. So it's like a bunch of different things going on at the same time. And I might not be doing stand-up right now because I'm not going to be able to be in the clubs. But you're right. Continue to do something creative. My last question for you is like, what do you think about TikTok? Because for me, I get original content, but there's no substance behind the majority of stuff I see. And I just go, is it just good to create something, or is it not?
I can't answer on what goes viral and why. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Like you said, like, yeah, if it's original content, then okay. But if it's just like, someone doing a dance and that's it, but then it's a challenge. So more people do it. I don't understand. It's definitely a new wave, and there's a lack of creativity, which I don't like. And it's kind of like a real follow the leader type deal, where it's one person does it, it gets popular. So now you do it to ride off that wave.
Yeah.
I like to create my own path, but apparently you just ride people's coattails and it's fine. That's the world we're living in right now. So easy street, baby.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for taking some time with us, and wish you all the best as you're cooped up, and we'll be looking forward to what you come up with next when things get back to normal. That was Sunee Dhaliwal, and like I said, a funny dude. It was really interesting but fun to talk to him. And Imran, you seem like you fit right in with him.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, it was just what an easy guy to talk to. Definitely on the friendly side. Was really great just to ask some personal questions for me. Like you said, I started off my journey in stand-up August of last year. Within 6 months, I racked up about 15 shows. Again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I did it across Canada, which was really cool.
He kind of called you out on that too. 15's not a lot, he says.
he definitely said, okay, well, 15, I do 300 a year. And I go, but, I did shows in Montreal, Ottawa, St. John's, Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, New Westminster. Come on, Sunny.
Yeah,
it's no Abbotsford, but we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I guess it's apples and oranges, right? You're still starting, and he did the circuits that you did, many years ago. I think it was around 10 years ago or something like that, where he started. And Zam, you had a chance to watch and listen to the interview. And first off, what did you think of Sunny? And second off, let's hear it. What do you want to call us out for?
Well, so you and Sunny were talking about the painting that was on his wall, calling it the Blue Note.
Blue Nose.
So it's it's the Blue Nose.
Yeah, that's what I said. Ooh, fall on your face. Okay, I haven't listened to it actually.
I listened to it, and I listened to both what you and Sunny were both saying. You both said it was called the Blue Note.
Well, anyways, Freudian slip, because
yeah,
I know it's Blue Nose.
Yes. Well, and funny that you mentioned that. And
but hey, I'll throw you a dime because you got that one.
Well, and we were, so Emily and I were talking about this just a little while ago this afternoon, and she reminded me, saying, as if she had told me this before, that her ancestors actually came to Canada on the Blue Nose.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Were they
I didn't know
Smurfs?
that.
I'm
No.
trying my best here. It's a comedy
They
episode.
were just really small. They were just really small.
Yeah.
They're the Walter.
And that was my 10 cents right there.
There you
10
go.
cents are free, though.
Oh, here
Yeah.
we go. This should
There
be
we go.
this should be the main act.
So they were the Walter family that came over on the Blue Nose as the captain of that ship, of that schooner, coming into, what was it, Newfoundland at the time, so or Nova Scotia.
That's pretty cool.
I
That's pretty
remember.
cool, and that's two historical fun facts that you've had on back-to-back episodes here. So you are our resident historian.
Well, you know, history.
If you
is
don't
one of
like
my
funny,
passions.
here's history.
Yeah, well, you know that. And my other connection to Sunny is also through Emily, is that they both grew up together in Abbotsford. I don't know together, but like they're both from Abbotsford, and we were listening to the interview and were able to make those connections and probably know the same people in common, as Abbotsford's a fairly small community. But yeah, it was great to listen to that chat and listen to how Sunny got his start in stand-up comedy and hear about how he's taken his act nationally and now settled in Toronto.
Yeah, Imran. So we recorded that interview at the start of COVID. We're kind of, getting out of COVID now, in terms of, like you were talking about, comedy is starting again. People are getting out there, and even at the beginning, and when we recorded that interview, you didn't know where comedy stood in your future. You've talked about trying to get back on stage now, but now that we're here, we're a few months removed, I think, from recording that interview. Where does it stand for you?
Yeah, so I've continued to write more observational humor. I think all of us have. No one expected to be stuck inside for 3 to 4 months. And again, I think everyday life is really funny. So I started really thinking about.
And if it's not, sorry to interrupt you, but if it's not, it's a way for us to deal with everyday life, is just to look at it in a funny way, right?
True, right? The next day is going to come regardless if you laugh or don't laugh. And if you laugh, you're just going to have a better day. And that's how I saw it. So a lot more of my writing and jokes are about observations of just things that you see every day. And something I thought that was really funny is, what if ghosts aren't haunting us? Maybe they're just jealous of all the technology that we have now. So they're being very sarcastic where they're like, ooh, you have a cell phone. Ooh, television, color television. Ooh. So, stuff like that.
That's a good one. Yeah, looking forward to you getting back out there. You're gonna take your comedic talents to TikTok or what?
You know what? I said it in the interview, and I'll say it again, especially because all the news that's out right now. That app is trouble.
That app is trouble. There was just the U.S. government just posted a warning out there about TikTok and how the Chinese Communist Party is essentially taking your data if you do have that app. And I've been trying to impart that knowledge on everybody I know. Don't use TikTok.
Yeah, I get that, and these are quite stern warnings, and they're not baseless. They have foundation. At the same time, you should have those concerns about the majority of the apps on your phone, except this is China, so it's a bit different. But
yeah, exactly. Well, true. Yeah, exactly. We don't know what the regulations are with.
But we also don't know what Facebook's doing with our data, who they're selling it to, and all the other apps. And this has been a concern with every new app that's come out there, and then that concern fades away because a new app is in front of us again. But honestly, if you're using an app on your phone, you should be concerned about where your data is, and that's a real concern with any app, I think. But I'm not disregarding the whole TikTok concern either.
It wasn't about the info or data. It was just, I don't like TikTok.
Yeah.
That was my
or China.
Maybe. Oh no! Listen. Yeah. Have you seen my ex-girlfriends?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So let's get who likes and who doesn't like, because I love. Don't forget it. Let's just get on to the next thing.
Yeah. We're getting off topic here. That's a different episode.
So Imran, when are you next going on stage?
That's a good question. I have started applying. Obviously, now that everyone's trying to get back, I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people trying to get their voice out there back on stage. Obviously, there are amateur nights, things like that are coming up. Some people have asked, like, why don't I just do a live stream? Why don't I just go like IG Live or Facebook? And it's not the same, you know.
No.
I wouldn't compare myself to a surgeon, but you wouldn't expect a surgeon to perform in an elevator. That makes no sense, right?
Here's
So
something. Go ahead.
Someone going to go see a comedy show has to be prepped, right? They have to be willing to laugh, to be able to be in a space, to share the comfort, to have that dark room. There's a whole bunch of things that need to happen for comedy to happen.
I wonder if there's
sure.
a new space. Like, I wonder if there could be a new space online for it. Obviously, Instagram Live, YouTube streams, not the way to go because you don't have the interaction. But I have seen musicians kind of take their talents and their acts to a virtual environment for concerts. And it's a local guy, Dan Mangan, who has kind of led the charge with this this service, this app, this website called Side Door Access. And I've been trying to get him on the show. He's ignoring my messages, but it's a way for artists to kind of hold their own concerts online. You pay to get a ticket. You go on a Zoom chat so the artist can see everyone that's watching them. And if they want, and for comedy here, they could have all the audio on. And so those participants, those guests, they would know their audio is on. You laugh, you're heard. You heckle, you're out. There's a host, there's a headliner. I could see that working for comedy. At least somebody trying it. And Imran, you know what? You want to make your mark? Why not? Let's you be the first.
I feel like there's a technological impediment to that as like, unlike you being in a room where you're listening to comedy, like when you're on a computer screen, everything is coming through one source of audio, and it just feels like it feels a little clogged. I don't know if you understand.
True,
like,
but have you watched a concert online?
No, I haven't watched many concerts online. I'm not a huge music person. I'm more like, but the thing is,
but what I'm saying is you're a comedy guy, and I'm a music guy and comedy, but
yeah.
I've watched many concerts online over the time of COVID because it's been a way that I've really enjoyed myself, and I'll tell you, it can have an impact on you, despite not being in a stadium with a bunch of massive speakers and a crowd next to you and smelling the weed the guy's smoking 3 rows down, and like. It can still have an impact. It may not be the same as comedy in a comedy club, but I think it can have an impact. And what's the alternative? Waiting until you get a spot when, like Imran said, there's 10,000 people trying to get that one spot now that there's only one spot that night?
So I think the other thing that we're going to start to see, and actually Dave Chappelle did it on Independence Day, which was Saturday, July the 4th, on outdoor comedy venues. And
yeah.
I think, and then there you have the space to social distance. And from what I saw, there were people set up 2 at a time. So you come in 2s, and then the chairs are set up in specific places within a large space, so you can have a decent sized show just set up in a larger space. So
yeah.
I wonder if that might be a good thing for at least the summertime.
All right, Imran, you answer.
You know what? I think we're just gonna have to try different things. You're right. What is our alternative? Do we wait? Do we just watch Netflix series? Do we watch specials? Do we watch Dave Chappelle? Do we rewatch, Aziz Ansari? What do we do, right? But you know what?
Where
I don't
is
think
that guy?
You know what? I think let him be right now. He his last show that actually we went to, that's the one that they recorded that series. So that tour that he was on.
Where is that?
For Master of None.
No.
Was it? It was after that.
It was a comedy show. It was a comedy show, and I felt like
I've watched that. Yeah,
he spoke the words that he's been wanting to say for a long time, and I'm glad he got it out there, which is great. But when Dave Chappelle did that outdoor concert, it was nice to see. Again, it was limited. There was probably 20, 30 people there. I didn't see a lot more. It was a private thing. Again, also good, but I think those 2 steps, that wooden stage, that backdrop, that cement wall, the closed tables, the candlelight, the $12 beers. I think that makes a difference.
Come on, Imran, 20, 30 people, that'd be your biggest show. Let's be honest here. Anyways, guys.
Get this guy a mic. Get this guy a mic.
Hey, I think I've been on a roll today. Speaking of roll, I got a roll. I got to get going here. It's post bedtime. I got to go pick up some kids golf clubs. I'm gonna go to the driving range this weekend with the kids and try to get them to hit some golf clubs. So, any parting words from you guys?
Well, it was a fun chat to hear you and Sunny and Imran have that chat, the three of you. Sorry I was not able to miss it, but glad that Imran was able to step in.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, it was a good conversation. I had some good exchanges of ideas and hearing him and on his journey, and it's a tough one for sure. And, many people don't know, but it's a way of me getting back to being creative, and I'm glad that I got to see him and his journey and others. But I think we're just going to see what happens next,
Yeah, and Zam, this is, at least the intro and the outro here. It's the first time we've had three co-hosts or hosts together, and I quite like it, actually. And I think once we get through our first round of recorded interviews, we can, definitely welcome Imran and others to the show to chat with us and with our guests. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, we're just nearing the end of phase one. I think we're down to our final interview coming up next week.
Yeah, I think so. Pavel Barber.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And that was a really fun chat. And there's some stories behind just getting that chat to happen, on my side, at least, that we'll share next week.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think I'm excited for phase two and continuing with the podcast, and then there's still so many more interesting people that we want to bring on, and excited to have Imran join us more frequently or Imran or other people as a third co-host on different occasions.
Okay, Zam, I'm going to do your job here today. Imran, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, no, congrats to both of you on Unanchored. It's been great seeing both of you, listening to your interviews. You picked really great people. Just keep going with it.
Yeah, no, thanks for being our hype man. You're sharing all our episodes, which is great. And like I said, and like Sam said, you're definitely welcome back, and we'll let you know when we think you're a good fit for our next round of interviews, because we're almost out. We're gonna have to start recording some more. Okay, Sam, I'm gonna do your job here. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Instagram. Oh no, not Insta. Oh, your job is hard at Unanchored Podcast. Unanchored Pod? Is it Unanchored? What is it? Unanchored Podcast. No, Unanchored. Okay, why don't you just do the job?
Okay.
Oh, you're not ready.
My document.
I know the website. It's unanchoredpodcast.ca.
So Twitter at Unanchored Pod, Instagram at Unanchored Podcast,
yeah,
Facebook
right.
Unanchored Podcast, and unanchoredpodcast.ca.
Perfect.
All the interviews are available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.